Welcome to my channel. Today we shall be implementing shuffling a deck of cards, basically a Python beginners program. If you are new to programming, especially Python, you want to create more projects and more projects. This will help you master Python faster and learn faster. So today we shall be doing just that. You can feel free to code along, can feel free to go to the GitHub repo. The link will be under the description. Thank you so much. And my name is Ronnie Atuhaire, and I'm also known as AfroBoyTechs. I'll be talking about Python. I'll be talking about technology as a whole, as I also do it yourself programs. So let's start our shuffling program. So we shall be using two important modules on Python. These are built-in modules. That's our itertools module and the random module. The random module helps us do pseudo-random number generators for various distributions. Then the itertools helps us with the number of iterators in building blocks. So it helps us create iterators. The iterators are just basically objects that you can iterate over. And under the itertools, we shall be using specifically the product function, which helps create a Cartesian product to the two sequences that are passed through it. Then the random module, we shall be using the shuffle function. Then if you've ever played cards, or if you know how to play cards, you know there are 13 types of cards. That's from 1 up to 13. Then A represents 1, then Q represents 12, K represents 13, and J represents 11. That's 52 cards. If you multiply them by 4 suits, the 4 suits here, I mean spades, clubs, diamonds, and hearts, excluding the jokers. So let's start our program. It's usually good to understand what you're going to implement first before you start writing code. So I prefer to call this as pseudocode. So I first write out what I want to do. So you can feel free to code along, can feel free to, because I'm also just like a learner like you, we're also learning. So feel free to code along, feel free to check the repo for in case you get confused. We shall import modules. Then after importing modules, we shall make a deck of cards. Then we shall shuffle the cards. Then we shall draw 5 cards. That's it. The program will be done. So under import modules, you just have to simply say import random, then import itertools. We go to the next item in line. That's basically making a deck of cards. We shall create a variable called deck. Then here we shall use our itertools dot product. It has a lot of things, but we shall use product, and basically takes in 2 parameters or 2 arguments. You may call them arguments, but there is a clear distinction between those two. So we shall use a range function. I'm going to explain in a little seconds why we're using range from 1 maybe to 14. Then we shall create a list of the other product the second parameter. We shall need it as a list of suits. That's spade, club. We shall create a heart, then diamond. So the reason why we use a range here is because, remember, our cards are from 1 to 13. So the range function helps us to do this, to create a list, it's a function that helps us create these numbers, generates these numbers from 1 up to 14, but excluding 14. Upper bound out. So it's 14 minus 1, that is 13, giving us 1 up to 13. So if you come here, let's say, and we print out If you want to know what you've done, you just say print out the deck. We first save this. I'm using Atom and I'm using a Windows laptop. So go to your terminal, locate where this project is in GitHub repos, and the GitHub repos under YouTube beginner series. Then you run the program. See, it brings us an itertools product object, because itertools, as I said, it just simply gives us objects at memory locations. So if you want to iterate over this object, you have to use maybe a for loop, or you can use actually a list as a function. The list function, then it gives us the deck, okay, the cards under this deck. So if you go back here, we can just simply put a list, wrap list under this liner. So we save, Control S, we go back, we run our program again. You see it brings a list of tuples or tuples, and basically, as you can see, it brings one spade, one club, one heart, two spade, two club. So these are 52 cards in here. So these are the identifications of those cards. To access these lists or these cards, basically you have to index and then slice. So slicing and indexing helps us to access the various cards inside the list, because it's a list of tuples. So to access, for example, this one here, you shall call the variable name of the list. Then maybe to access number 1 here, it says simply put 0. And to access this, you just simply put 1. Then to access this, the entire this one is under index 0, but under index 0 we have 0 and 1 inside it. So it's like a nested indexing and slicing, since we have 2 items in a tuple under this one list, under this one deck of cards. You shall see that down as you're trying to, when you're drawing the cards. So here we randomize, or we shuffle the cards. So we just simply call random. We shall call our random function. Then it has shuffle. Then we pass in our deck. We are done with that. Then we draw 5 cards from it. Before we draw 5 cards, I like printing this over just for clarity. You have drawn 5 cards. So we shall use a for loop to iterate over this list, which is a deck, and then we shall simply be randomizing, like getting cards there randomly. Because it's an ordered list, we shall use slicing and indexing. So to achieve this, we just call a for loop. We say for card maybe, we shall use a range function. This can be anything. It can be it can be whatever you want to call it. For example, let me call it card. For card in range, since we want 5 cards, that's 0 up to 4, which makes 5 as the length. We shall call, okay, before we call maybe the deck, we shall need to print it out. Before we print it out, let's just put this in front of what you're going to print out. You can pass a number of arguments in the print function. So we call our deck. From the deck, we shall be calling a card at 0 index. Remember, we shall be calling the card. Each card, we shall call 5 cards there, but each card we shall be calling, maybe you shall call the card at 0 index. Remember, a card has, we shall be using the random function because it's already randomized the deck. So we shall be calling the deck and the deck cards that we shall be calling it at index 0, and remember 0 is the type of the card. Then that's the 0 index, the first index. Then the second index, which is 1, is the suit, club, spade, heart, diamond. So we shall now call it, before we call it, maybe say that one of, we shall just put here something of, comma, deck, then we slice and index. So if we print this, okay, if we save this, test it out and see if it's really working. You come back to the terminal, run it. Yeah, it works. See, it brings 10 of spade, 3. It's basically bring out randomly the way how we want it to be. Maybe let's first comment out this. Let's first comment out the print. We save again. We run it again. Now we want to compare and see if it's really true, if it's really performing what you want it to perform. That is, it shouldn't return the same results, the previous results, in other words. So if we run it again, it gives us something different. As you can see here, majority are diamonds, but it has also a spade. So here it had 2 spades, 2 clubs. So that means our function is working. If we call it again, it brings now randomly 6 of spade, 13, that's a K of heart, 7 of heart, 7 of club, 2 of spade. So our function is running very well. So the last thing we need to do here is basically wrapping it up. It's very Pythonic to wrap up your functions and to wrap up your code into functions. So what we shall do here, we shall just come here on top, we create a function, call it card shuffler. Which takes nothing. Then you come and highlight all this chunk of code under. You have to indent, you just press tab. It might be different command if you're using a different laptop or a different IDE. So we save again. So here basically now we call the function, say if name equals to main, then card shuffler. So we save again and you see if our function or if our program still runs. Yeah, it still runs. And whenever you run it, it generates random code or random cards. So basically we have implemented our card shuffling program in Python. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you learned something, please kindly share with me in the comment section. If you have questions, please put over them in the comment section, and please subscribe to my channel also. I'll be talking more about, I'll also be building more kind of these projects for beginners. I'll also be talking about tech. Thank you so much. Stay blessed.